Here we are again, Hornets, ready for another Ready Reading Workbook lesson. So today we're going to get started on our point of view lesson for fiction in our Ready Workbook. So let's go ahead and get out our Ready Workbook. If you already don't have it out, this is the time to do it. So we're going to get out your Ready Workbook and we're going to open it up to page 161. If you notice down here in our materials section, it's got some stuff that you might need. So here's our materials. You need your Ready Workbook, and we're going to be open to page 161. You need to make sure you have out a pen or a pencil. If you want to get out a highlighter, this is also a good time to do that. And this right here, you can't see it, but it's covered up. You need out your earbuds or your headphones, which if you're listening to this, hopefully you already have those out. All right, so we are going to move on and we're going to go to page 161 of our workbook. Now, on page 161 of our workbook, let me erase all this stuff that's here. We don't need that right now. All right, so page 161 of our workbook. If you're not there, get there, pause me, whatever you need to do. But the very first thing we're going to do is because we're starting a brand new lesson, we are going to box our title. That is always the first thing that we do when we start a new lesson is box our title. And just to remind ourselves why this title is important and we want to make sure we're paying attention to it, we've boxed analyzing point of view. Now we're going to rewrite it at the top of the screen. Remember, if I write it or if I've typed it in red, you should write it down. It should be in your workbook. If I have it written or typed in red on this page, you need to write it down. Now, we're writing down analyzing point of view, which the POV out here on the side, that's what that means, point of view. Okay. So the other thing we're going to look at is we're going to underline, we're going to go to our standards where it says right over here, we've got the Mississippi standards right here. We are looking at literature. That's what that L means right there. And since we're looking at literature, hopefully you'll realize you'll know we'll be dealing with either fiction, drama, or poetry or folklore, and not a lot of informational text. It has its own point of view thing that we'll look at later. But yeah, so we are looking at point of view and we're looking at how the author develops the point of view of the characters or narrators in a text and how it could possibly change. In order to do that, we look at perspectives, which is going to be the theme throughout this entire lesson, lesson 16, dealing with perspectives. That's what each story is. So, what are perspectives, you ask? I'm so glad you did. So, we're going to write that down real quick. Perspectives. We have three main perspectives when we deal with point of view. We have first, second, and third. And where a lot of us are familiar with those. First person, we're talking about the character's perspective. They use lots of pronouns like I, me, my, we, us, mine, myself. That means the character in the story is the one actually telling the story. We get to hear a lot about what the character thinks and feels. Second person is when the author is telling you a story. It's what Miss Murray likes to call breaking the fourth wall. That means that the author is talking directly to you. It is very hard to do. Well, it's very hard to do and do well. So just keep that in mind. It's not done a lot. It's usually saved for letters when you're writing to somebody you know because you're the author and you know that person. And it uses the pronoun you and your a lot since it's talking directly to you. And then we have our last one, which is third person, which means there is a narrator somewhere inside the story. Now, that can be a narrator that's third person limited, which means that you only know the thoughts and feelings of one character a lot, or you have third person omniscient, which means you know every character's thoughts and feelings. But pronouns are used a lot like he, them, us. I mean, he, not us. He, us, she, not us. Why I keep saying us? He, she, it, they, them, their, as in they are, or their, as in their. All those third person pronouns are used for this one. Next, when we after outside of perspective, when we're talking about first, second, and third, we want to make sure we look at purpose. Author's purpose is always very important for figuring out point of view. And as we know, purpose is as easy as pie. It is to persuade, inform, and entertain. And I have entertain highlighted right here because for fiction, guys, 99.9 times out of 100, fiction is going to be to entertain. All right. Then the next thing we want to make sure we look at is, in order to help us figure out the point of view of the story and the character's point of view in the story, is we want to look at tone. And tone, we start out by being simple with tone and say positive, negative, and neutral. Now we want to move from that later to, well, give me a positive tone. Give me a negative tone. Give me a neutral tone. And when I say that, give me a feeling word that goes along with those tones. And then we end up, because that's what the author's intent is. Then we have what I like to call it's congruent to. Let me see if my congruent sign will pop up. There it is. Congruent means the same but not. It's like equal but different. So that is what we talk about mood, because mood is what you, as the reader, get from these points of view. Tone is the character's point of view. Mood is how it makes you feel. And I threw up some emojis for us for that one. We've got our happy face emoji for positive. I have our like sad crying face for negative, and you've got your meh for neutral. I couldn't find a really good meh face. Okay. Now that we've got all of our notes and stuff taken care of, let's look at actually what our text says down here. It says roller coasters aren't for everyone. You might love the thrills, but your friend keeps her eyes closed the whole time. Each of you has your own perspective or point of view about the experience. All right, as like Miss Murray, she loves roller coasters and she will keep her eyes open the whole time. Whereas in my brother used to couldn't stand them. He'd ride it with me, but he kept his eyes closed. All right, so stories also have different points of view. Sometimes you'll get the point of view of the narrator or the voice telling you the story, and we call that, what did we say? That's for the narrator, the voice. And other times you get the point of view of one or more characters. So, and by doing that, they're revealing their words, thoughts, feelings, and actions. The author gives you insight into the character's attitude about events and people around them. Okay? Let's look at our picture in the middle of the page. So it asks us, who are the main characters in the scene below? How would the description of the same event differ if it were told from each character's point of view? So the first thing we want to do is we want to circle our main characters. So our main characters, notice you've got all these people in the background that you can't see their faces. So they're not going to be your main characters. But your main characters are the ones where you can actually know what's going on with them. Well, you've got our acrobat in the middle. And then we have our audience members on the side. Okay. So our acrobat, he's got out here, he's got his thought bubble. He's thinking to himself, oh, this next trick is going to be tough. And then you've got our audience over the side in their thought bubble. Wow, he makes it look so easy. So at this point, I want you to pause the video and I want you to circle how you know what their tone is. So I'll wait, pause me. And what I mean is circle like their facial expressions or maybe their shoulders, something that shows you how they feel. So pause me and circle that. Okay. I'm going to assume you've paused me and you figured out now how each character feels. Well, I'm going to look at our dude right here and I see his face. And I see over here that his thought bubble, since he's thinking it, this is probably going to be in first person, right? So that's my point of view. It's him. And he looks a little bit on the negative side, guys. I'm going to throw that negative out there because his face, he looks like he's thinking really hard. Like he could be a little bit worried or maybe even afraid. And he looks like he's really, really tense. like he's having to concentrate really, really hard so he doesn't fall. Well, that's his. Now, over here on the side, if we look at our 4 audience members, all their faces, they're smiling. And since they're smiling, I'm going to assume, because I can infer that smiling normally means that they're having a positive point of view, that their tone is positive. They even say up here, and because we're gonna go. So if we have more than one person's thoughts, I know that this can't be first person, that this is going to be third person, since I have multiple thoughts and stuff going on. So wow, he makes it look so easy. So they're impressed. They think this is cool. They're excited. Impressed. And I can tell by their faces that they are these things. Okay. And now they're each different, even though they're going through the exact same event. Now we're going to read through the chart at the bottom of the screen. It's right down here, guys. And it says to read the chart below, note how the evidence shows why a contrast, which means how something is different, exists between the acrobat's point of view and about the audience member's perspective. So, as we said up there earlier, the acrobat says, he even says or thinks to himself that this next trick will be tough. And that's kind of negative. And he's walking a tightrope. So, his point of view is that this routine is very dangerous and that he could fall at any minute, which goes up to saying earlier that he could even be a little bit afraid. Then we have our audience member, and she is smiling, her eyes are wide, and she even thinks to herself that he makes it look easy, which goes to show why we said that the tone was, positive for her, because she's excited and impressed. And the point of view that she's got is that she sees the acrobat as being very talented and that he's in no danger. So you've got the acrobat that is aware that this is very dangerous because he can fall, but you've got the audience that sees him going, he's not in any danger because he's got this, he's so good. So that's how it's your two different points of view when you've got that same acrobat walking the tightrope event. So the characters in the scenes are having two different experiences and would tell different versions of the same story. So, in other words, how an event is described is directly affected by who is describing it. So, by carefully choosing or describing points of view, the author is able to advance the plot and help readers understand the characters' actions and motivations. So, just like if you notice down here, I have our point of view charts that we did for Harry Potter. So we've got our notes that we have in our source book right here. Then we have our practice event that we did as a class on chapter 10 from the beginning of Halloween on Harry and Draco. And then we've got what we did for chapter 10, the end of it, for Harry, Ron, and Hermione, because all three of them have very different points of view for that same event for the troll getting locked in the bathroom. And then we have our new one that I'm going to take up for a grade that you're supposed to have been working on, the one event and 2 points of view for Harry and Ron in the mirror. Okay. So if you have not finished that, this would be a good time to get that done. If you have any other questions, let me know, guys.